you might not know me, my name is Ann Cole, and I recently joined the Maryland Federation of Art as their Assistant Executive Director. I'm really excited to be here today, and with me is our intern, Julie, who is helping me on the technical side. So if I seem to be a little slow from a technical standpoint, bear with me, I appreciate it.
But
I'm so happy.
She's a lot faster with technology than I would be. So we're both depending on Julie, right?
Yes, we both are depending on Julie here. I'm so happy to have you all, and we have about 30 participants today joining us for our Strokes of Genius Awards ceremony and juror talk. Before we get started with the awards, I just want to take a moment to thank Nicole Levy, who was the show chair for this exhibition. Nicole is a member of MFA, but she's also a classically trained painter and sculptor, and had received a degree in fine arts from the Maryland Institute College of Art. So we're so thankful that she has given her time and effort to chair and coordinate this exhibition. So I'll go ahead and introduce our juror, Barry Nemett. He has had a 50-year career at the Maryland Institute College of Art, serving as chair of the painting department for 25 of those years. I've had the opportunity over the last few days to discuss this show with Barry, and I just want to reiterate how incredible this show is. The way Barry has been able to meld together the extremes that we're living in today, from happiness and light to sadness and frustration, all with keeping in mind this incredible intensity and emotion, is absolutely amazing. I get to sit in the gallery every day and sit and look at all this work surrounding me. But I know, based on the reactions of people that come in, that what he has chosen to be in this show has an immediate and forceful impact, even on people who only see it for a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Barry to guide us through the awards.
First of all, for those people who might be on this Zoom event who are not award winners, I just would like to say that it was very tough for me to whittle it down from, I thought I had the number here, but 550 or so entries to 10 entries that were provided awards. And of course, it's my taste a little bit, but I did strive to not depend on or reinforce my own sensibility. But there was so many good works, and hopefully you'll benefit from seeing how I think and how I see from the commentary that I include along with the images that we will project here. But I'm going to read this. The thematically and stylistically diverse exhibition, Strokes of Genius 2021, includes a portrait of a zebra-striped female, which will show, and will show it at the end. Some of these images that I'll reference right now at the end of the Zoom call will show pictures of it. A bathtub and a mutilated deer coupled with a serene cat. It also stretches from expressionistic to minimalistic geometric abstractions. Like our lives today, the works embrace both sadness and sun. Sadness, deathly pandemics, social isolation, violent insurrections. Sun, we all make our own. Some of the paintings in Strokes have it both ways. In Thomas McCarthy's Pandemic Picnic, and each of the names here that I'll mention did not receive awards, but I was really torn not including them in the award ceremony. In Thomas McCarthy's Pandemic Picnic, COVID masked friends play cards on blankets patterned by the cast shadows of a clear day. A fluidly curvilinear turbulent seascape created by Teresa Yu is titled Waves of Hate, Harmonies, Hurricanes, and Hatreds. That's my addition to her title. The subject of Deborah Comelan's closely observed still life boasts the mismatched title, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, an apt way to characterize our crazed times. I selected mostly small works in order to include as many paintings as possible from the 545, I was wrong, 5 less, deserving submissions sent from the United States, Puerto Rico, Canada, and Mexico. 2 of the littlest images, John Markowitz's A Clearing and Source, are for me among the show's most powerful and deepest entries. The impact of these sensual, pitch perfect, nearly pitch black mysteries is at once soothing and seething. This is consistent with the conflictual nature of a show that celebrates variety. It was a treat to view so many quality projects inspired by passion and the joys of tradition and innovation. Across today's darkness, the works glaze genuine light and blaze with hope, okay? So that's the curatorial statement that I wrote. And John, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Well, I was very moved by your paintings, you know. I just felt that it was very personal. I saw some of the references, but some of your references are some of my favorite artists, you know. Jake Berthaud, I knew him, but I never studied with him. And Odd Nerdrum. Odd Nerdrum's, some of Odd, and he is a friend. Odd Nerdrum's favorite artists include Albert Pinkham Ryder. I don't know if you know his work.
I sure do.
But he came to mind a little bit. Not that your work looks anything like him, like his work on the surface, but I thought that you might like him. But anyway, I just found that the sense of darkness within which you have so much to say, and within the context of drawing and painting, which are both evident, you know, like the drawing with the brush, defining some of the edges of branches or tree trunks in the darks. I found really graceful and generous and very subtle. And that's a theme throughout this show, some of the subtleties of different artists whose work I really liked. For John's painting, I really loved how you see into the darks and how you see such a range within darkness of edges. Of course, in the center, that vertical stripe of light, highlighted tree trunk is boom, you know, really a smack to wake us all up. But then there are other edges that disappear or dissolve into the canvas, and others that are coaxed out of the darkness, you know. I also liked, I don't know if Julie, you can put the laser pointer, no, put the laser pointer right on the central white tree trunk, and then where you're pointing right now, within those two verticals, I like how, John, you framed the dark receding in space tree trunk, almost like it's seen through a portal or door, you know. I wrote a few notes. I think you get away with so much. But before I say any more, John, do you want to, and maybe we'll make this a little bit like a conversation. Is there anything that you would like to say about your own painting? And I loved the other painting you submitted too, as I recollect. But I did not award two paintings to any one artist, you know, so I selected this one for this discussion today. But is there anything that you would like to say about this, or about work in general?
Well, first of all, I'm just happy to be in the show. And the work was of such a high quality that it was a privilege. And then to have you recognize this painting is a real treat for me. Oh, that's very much appreciated. You referenced several artists who are near and dear to me, especially Jake Berto, but also 19th century American paintings always been
George Ennis?
George Ennis, Jasper Cropsey, Thomas Dowdy, Albert Pinkham Ryder, Ralph Blakelock. I teach American art history. And so it's something that's very, very near to me in terms of what I do academically, but it's also something that I've always been interested in, 19th century American painting in particular. But I've also trained as an abstract painter. I went to Pratt for my master's degree and studied with some really good painters. And so I'm really sort of a trial and error painter.
Did you study with George McNeil?
I did not study with him, but I had the opportunity to talk to him on several occasions. Mostly I studied with Ross Meir, Gillian Jagger. Those were the two who I studied with the most. Frank Lind. It was a really good program and it was a great experience for me. Of course, that was a very long time ago.
Well, longer ago, I went to Pratt as an undergraduate.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. But I did not know George from those days, but I wrote about him in a book that I published. And at the time that I was an undergrad, he was the director of the graduate program. I don't know if he was when you were in attendance.
He was not, although one of my studio mates was his studio assistant. So that's how I had the opportunity to get to know him a little bit.
But he called me one day after seeing the publication, and I did get to meet him and have lunch with him. And I really love his work. George McNeil. So any of you could look his work up, you know, an abstract expressionist who hated beauty, by the way, you know. Somebody in a talk that I attended mentioned his paintings were beautiful, and that was the worst thing anybody could have said to him, you know. Well, it was a pleasure getting to see you and to see your paintings, John.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And the next is David Diaz with Capital Morning.
Okay, now you appear. I think I met you.
I have met you somewhere, but I can't remember exactly.
I could tell you where.
Oh.
I curated a show at University of Maryland.
Oh.
And you were there.
Yes.
Helping.
We were installing the show too, yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I think I included a painting of yours
You
in that
did.
show. Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well,
yeah.
I really liked your painting as well, but I won't say that consistently, because obviously I liked all 10 paintings that we're going to see right now.
Mhm.
But I liked your smaller painting as well. In the
Thank you.
case of John Markowitz, the two paintings were little square paintings, were pretty much the same size as I remember. But you had a small painting study, and I did include this larger one of the two. One of the things Anne had asked me to say something about what I liked from the images, because that might be interesting for others. One of the things that I liked was the cools and the warms and the conversation between the two. And again, like John, like Samantha Herring's paintings, the edges, hard edges, strict hard edges versus soft edges, I thought really brought this space alive. And I like, for example, Julie, can you put the laser pointer right to the right and up a little bit from where it is? No, the highlighted across the street, right there. You know, that more than the Capitol building seems to deserve a lot of attention and compel us to look at that, as opposed to the windows, for example. There's a lot of windows here, and every one of which is individually seen or simplified, you know. There's so little information, David, that and yet you capture the full experience. I can think of a beautiful Edwin Dickinson painting, as well as his drawings, where if you think to yourself, what could this drawing or painting have looked like if it was an artist, Richard Estes or somebody who paints more details. In the case of the Edwin Dickinson painting that I'm thinking of, every one is different. And that's the case for you, you know. Just like the three people who add a sense of scale to the buildings. The three people. There's a blue, a yellow, and a warm color shirt. Yeah, the three people are just a matter of a mere brushstroke, and even the three cars that echo the three people are a couple of brushstrokes, but you tell us enough to inform us of a full experience. And one of the things in Robert Markowitz, wait, I lost your first name. John Markowitz. One of the qualities that really moved me was the mystery. I didn't use that word, I don't think. And by the same token, David, it's the mystery of the whole street, just like Balthus street paintings or a Leonard Anderson street painting. It's the mystery that compels me, but also what is not seen, like behind the tall red building across from where Julie highlighted with the laser pointer. Yeah, behind that building, the street turns, and I wonder what is happening behind this street. out of sight. And so I am interested in narrative and triggering paintings that trigger my imagination, you know? Just like you could think to yourself, what are those three people at the base of the red building talking about, you know? Let me see if I had any notes that I would like to add. Well, the only thing I wrote there is that I didn't mention is surface. Obviously, if we're looking at digital images, you can't appreciate surface. But even here, David, I really like the varied surface. And do you want to say anything like about painting with a knife or as opposed to a brush, or about anything that comes to mind?
Thank you. No, thank you for choosing the piece. Actually, I did it during COVID, actually, because I'm a plein air painter, and I did a 9x12 of the scene, and then I went home and everything was closed down, and so I thought I would, with the small one was even looser, but I thought rather than copy it, I would interpret it, which is a different thing. So the light is what I did it for, and the painting is kind of the subject, that the atmosphere. So and it's a little more saturated. Apparently, I took a later picture of it, but I wanted to break down the images, the shapes, into color masses and kind of sort of lose the shape of the buildings, but still indicate they were there without definition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you did. The Capitol building that receives the light coming from the right, I like that plane and how it disappears into the sky. You know, there's no line separating Capitol building from blue sky. There's nothing more beautiful. Well, I'll put it this way in humanistic terms. Well, there's nothing more beautiful than there's no one more beautiful than my wife. But I love, we're high school sweethearts, so we've been together a couple of years, you know. But I like the sense of where she ends and I begin. I'm not sure about that, you know. I mean, obviously she's female, I'm male, and she's short and I'm not much taller, you know, but a little bit taller. So we're different, but when differences come together and blend, I think that's loveliness, you know. And so there's loveliness in your painting here, you know, and there's loveliness in the handwriting or the language of simplification, David, you know, that moved me as well. Okay, so I could go on for all of you, but I won't. Usually I have Diane, my wife, sit in the audience and she could go like this when she thinks I should just move on. My mother did that during my father's funeral. You know, I did a eulogy, and my sister didn't talk to her for a couple of weeks because she was sitting next to her. So I won't let anybody do that now, but we'll just move on.
Shall we move on to Marissa Evangelista's reflection?
And Marissa, can you say something So you're highlighted
Sure. Hi.
on the screen? Okay, so you can see that this is a self-portrait. And I do know Marissa. Marissa was the only one, because it's a self-portrait, that I didn't know when I chose the work for the show, that I did know. But the rest of you, even Grace Doyle, who was a student of mine, I did not know that I was choosing yours, Grace. But in this painting, you know, I'm not going to focus or dwell on skill or craft, because there was so much skill and craft in many of the works that were submitted. But there was something else that intrigued me about this painting. Again, edges, like what I said about John and David's work, but little subtle things like, Julie, can you bring the pointer over to the right-hand side, our right-hand side of the gold fabric behind Marissa's portrait? And you see the horizontal blue lines. I liked the subtlety of that, and then the subtlety of echoing or paralleling those horizontal lines in the hand, that if you just go below the gold fabric, can you see the folds of the skin in the palm of her hand? I think, I don't know if that was intentional or not, Marissa. Mostly we tend to do things that we're not conscious of, but I liked, and we learn, you know, the creative process is a twofold experience at best, and at least twofold. It's intentional and it's intuitional, you know, spontaneous. But afterwards, while we're taking breaks during the painting or after the fact, after the painting is done, we learn from it. And then that becomes a part of our smart intuition, you know, and spontaneity. So I like the way the blue lines go from the fabric to the palm of the hand, and then it becomes, in talking about lines, it becomes a diagonal line of the gold chain, and then a curved line of the bottom, a big graceful curve of the bottom of the necklace. And I can't see it right now on my screen, but I assume you can, because the photographs of other participants in the Zoom are overlapping it. But I remembered there being a circular button near the bottom of the canvas, and I liked the way that related to the little diamond-shaped pendant at the V, the point where they meet, of the necklace. But just as much as that, as that formalism, I really liked the startle of your eye glance and your gestures of your fingers, in terms of what emotion is going on as you're trying on or taking off the necklace. Oh, Diane just heard me from the other room, and she brought out my iPad so I can see it. But I am right that there was a diagonal button there. So I thought of Artemisia Gentileschi from the Renaissance period, a Florentine painter, female painter, who painted a series of Judith paintings, a biblical heroine, who, I don't mean to gross you out, but she cut off the myth, the story, the biblical story is that she cut off the head of an Assyrian general, Holofernes, to save her people from slaughter. And there's a painting or two in the Uffizi gallery in Florence of her and her maidservant stealing away with the head of the general. And this reminds me of that, or maybe a more contemporary terms, a child just going into the mother's bedroom and putting on a necklace just to try it out, or a teenager returning from a date and putting the necklace back into the jewelry box, you know. There's all those imaginings that are brought to my mind when I look at this, you know. With that said, Marissa, is there anything you would like to say about this painting?
Sure. Yeah, this was actually a piece that I made for my thesis in my senior year with Barry's class. And this was also made during COVID as well. So, and this, I didn't expect to struggle so much with all the intricate things that I wanted diving into this piece. But I think, Barry, you really nailed how there's so many small little moments that really come together in different parts of the painting. And I think that was something that I really wanted to capture, all these subtle things that lead your eye in all these different parts in the painting. Even though this painting is about being maybe disappointed with her reflection, there's just things that make it come together and work.
Oh, thank you, Marissa. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And that's where the title comes from, reflection, right?
Yeah, so it's a painting about what she sees that's not actually in the painting.
Thank you. Barry, can we move on to Samantha Herring's gift wrap?
Oh, okay. So I didn't not know Samantha when I looked at this painting and another small painting of hers of an object or two. But I really like it. And I was moved to look up her website because after I found out the names, which was after I submitted the award winners, by the way, and chose the show, because I was curious what else you did. And Samantha, can you say hello to everybody so we could see your face on the screen?
Hi, Barry and everyone.
Oh, there you go. What was I going to say? That I looked up your website, and I would encourage anybody here who wants to look at good painting to look at John's paintings website. Although I tried to look up yours, after the fact, and I couldn't find it, John, you know? Do you have a website?
I stopped doing that.
Oh, okay. And I did look up David's and, you know, other people's, but I would look up Samantha's, because for years now, you've been doing really serious painting. And although your imagery has changed significantly over the years, from little coves of where the wall meets the floor, the tile floor, or dirty sink, a stained sink, you know, these kind of overlooked places. And perhaps my daughter, Lainey, who's a painter, maybe made me sympathetic to your work right off the bat, because she's an art teacher in a college too, in New York. And she gives an assignment to her painting class of something like uncommon places or overlooked places. And she showed me through slides or digital imagery some of the examples that she gets, and they're good, you know. And that seems to be something that compels you in life, just appreciating these modest visual events, you know, and making elevating them to nobility. You know, they're not important, and yet they are, you know, and you show us how they are. I think that I would like to get to know you, because I think that there's more humor that I wouldn't get to know otherwise, because I see humor in your paintings, you know, even though they're sometimes deadpan humor and quiet humor, but they're quiet paintings in general, you know, almost silent, like this painting of an empty box. You know, it's absence, it's emptiness, you know. But in regard to the humor, I like how you play with the horizon line here, you know. I'm sure that you, like Mirandy might do. And Lainey, my daughter's middle name is Miranda, named after Mirandy, by the way. But I liked how you line up the back of the box, the right angle of the box, the long horizontal part, with the horizon line, and you lift it up a little bit, you know. And I like subtleties like the warm light just to the left of the back of the box against the wall, that warm, bright-ish light to the right-hand side, going from an assignment that I have always given at MICA is going from here to there, you know, how things visually or conceptually or emotionally change from one side to another of a composition, or from bottom to top, or diagonal to diagonal. And in this simplified reductive painting, I like how the right-hand side, Julie, can you move the laser pointer to the left, our left? Yeah, and down a little bit, just above the horizon line. Yeah, so as it approaches the box, it gets lighter and warmer. And then if you go to the opposite side of the box, on the wall, it's casting a shadow, and the most opaque part of the shadow is closest to the box. So, I mean, this is a basic concern that you might not even think about, Samantha, but I like those variations, you know, and I would love to, I am going to go to the closing, and I'm anxious to see the surfaces of the paintings that I included, whether they're award winners or not, in this exhibition. But I get the sense that the surface is important in your work in general and in this painting as well. Anything you would like to say, Samantha?
Yes. First, thank you so much. It's an honor to be in this show with so many great painters, and I'm speechless that you picked this one. I really thank you. It means a lot. And yes, everything you said, I do think about those journeys between one subtle color and another subtle color. I love looking at empty space and making that emptiness as exciting and interesting as the object, knowing full well that I'm, very few people might actually find an empty box interesting, but it's endlessly beautiful. The longer you spend looking at it, there's so much more to see. And I'm delighted that you saw the humor in those pieces. Not a lot of people pick up on that, but yes, I would hope that that's there too.
Well, even Samantha, even the title, gift wrap, struck me as humorous, because it seems like, where's the gift wrap and where's the gift, it's
Exactly.
so much. What made you title it gift wrap?
A desperate hope that someone would get the joke.
Oh, good. And is there any, this is putting you on the spot, and so maybe nothing will come to mind or nothing that you want to share, but I'm just curious, since I did pull up other images of yours, and I see that absence and quiet, silence really, is such a part of yours, of your visual language and your subject matter and how you portray that subject matter. Is there anything that you could share with us regarding how that impacts your vision or your life, that is silence or absence or anything?
Sure. It's
Are you a meditator?
I try to be. I would like to be better at meditating. But yes, finding the quiet in what seems to be increasingly a noisier and noisier world is really important to me. It has seemed like for a while that there are always so many distractions, either digitally now with social media, or just skimming the headlines and then wanting to curl up under the covers and go back to bed. There's always something to be distracted by. There's always something that's shouting for our attention, and I'm always much more at peace when I find those quiet, subtle moments. And if I can do anything with the work I make, I'd like to give a moment of that same kind of peace and quiet to somebody who's actually looking at an image that I make.
Well, you did for me,
Thank you.
Samantha.
I love it. And
We need to move on to Juliet Drake Hossain's How Fast Must We Go to Stop Time?
Oh, and Juliet, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, how do you do?
Hi, very well. This is a brilliant experience. Thank you so much.
And where are you? Where do you live now?
I'm currently living in Urbana.
Oh, Illinois?
No, Urbana, Maryland. So just
Oh.
south of Frederick City.
Oh, I liked both of the paintings of yours that I included in the show. I just happened to choose this one. Since Diane brought me my iPad, let me see the bottom of yours. Okay, can the rest of you see the bottom of her object? It's more of an object because the frame is painted upon as well. And I read kind of, I don't know if it's Mandarin or what, but there's script inscribed on the frame and in some of the columns. Am I right? Yeah.
Yes.
And where is this image that you portrayed taken from?
It was taken in Tokyo when we were stationed over there when my daughter was in preschool. So we lived there for 3 years. And the script is in German. It's Einstein's handwriting.
And collaged onto the frame?
It's engraved. I used my laser engraver. And then some of the writing on the side is filled in with paint.
And even in the columns, I can't see it now, but when I enlarged it, it looked like Chinese calligraphy.
Yes, that is Japanese, ancient Japanese on some of their torii gates.
Well, I like the unfamiliarity. I did exhibit in a big museum, a one-person show in Guilin Museum of Art. So I did spend a couple of weeks there for the opening, in fact. But I like my feeling unfamiliar with the architecture and the space of it. Regarding the space of it, I like how red moves me into the space, by the way, and back into the space. In terms of imaginings, I felt like right away, I love the skillfulness underlying this whole creation. But I also, at first, wanted to trot after the little girl. So that's your daughter?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. She might have been freaked out to see some old man running behind her, but I did feel like wanting to enjoy her play, but then I thought to myself, but who knows, I'm fairly optimistic by nature. She could be running away from something bad, because of the labyrinthine space that I referenced a second ago it's not too much of a garden that I see more of on my left, and your daughter's left, but there's a lot of hard, firm ground, concrete pillars or stone work on the footpaths. So, but I like not knowing if I'm supposed to be thrilled as part of her joy or frightened, and I think it is a fascinating portrait especially now discovering that it's your daughter. You know, we all love our daughters and our sons, you know, and want to share their face with the world. And you're painting her, and you painted her without a face, you know. And so I think that's inventive. And as I remember, her foot is overlapping the frame some. So do you want to say anything more about this work?
Yes, certainly. So watching my kids grow, because my daughter was about I think about 5 years old in this picture, and now she's 11. So all of her different stages of her life, I've really wanted to freeze so that I can revisit them as she grows, because it kind of breaks my heart, you know, as she's growing, knowing that she's inextricably moving towards a future in which I'm not going to see her nearly as much as I do now. So I like to play with concepts of time, of freezing time. And so I went with some Einstein theory of special relativity, which has to do with moving through time, velocity, things like that. So this is kind of me just pinpointing my daughter in this moment of time as she's moving towards her eventual destiny, both spatially in the picture, you know, through time itself. So that's where I was going with all of that. Thank you.
And that's where the title comes from?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I might have just cut you off, interrupted you. Were you?
Oh,
no?
no.
Okay, well, I think it's very personal
Mm-hmm.
visual art making, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really glad that you submitted the two works that you
Thank
did.
you very much.
Okay. Oh, so is Charlene Neild here? Because I love this painting. I thought, and
Charlene is on the line. She might need to unmute.
She's muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Yes, thank you very much for choosing this.
oh, I love your painting, you know, like Samantha, but in a very different way. There's humor all over it, you know. I would think if we were socially gathered, that I would laugh more out loud, and I would get your jokes more quickly than I would get Samantha's, you know. But like, for example, I love the way the equestrian person, I don't know if it's a male or a female, but the figure on the big horse, great big horse, I love the way their hat is part of the background, you know, all these little items floating in the background playfully, you know. I don't know, like calligraphy, I don't know how to read this calligraphy, but I like the way it becomes part of the figure in the guise of a hat, or part of the collar or the jacket in the guise of the clothing, or the boot, you know, or the bold blue icy saddle blanket, you know, or the tail, the horse's tail is what I said before about David Diaz. I don't know if I got your name right. David Diaz. Is that close enough, David? Yeah, but anyway, about the bright part of the Capitol building that received the sun, and then how closely aligned it was to the blue sky. And I made a connection to me and my wife. Well, in a related way, even though it's not obvious, I think that Charlene's Tale of the Red Horse relates to the calligraphic shapes of color floating around, playfully floating around the horse and rider. I love how inventive and reinventive you are with I can't decide if I should focus on the legs of the horse or the hooves of the horse. Each of the hooves is a different visual experience. So you're going out of your way to reinvent hoof, for us. And even the three red legs, it's a little bit orange, more orange in one case, or the back leg is a little bit more violet or mauve. And then one leg is altogether green, not altogether, there's a little bit of red in there, but there's some bold moves that I really liked here. So that said, anything that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, first, I'm very, very honored to be selected for the show, and to get an award is, sort of a dream come true. I'm a relatively new painter.
No, it doesn't look it.
I've been painting for less than 10 years, and I have no training as a painter. So
don't get any, by the way.
well, actually, I recently got some color theory, and it's really messed with my head. I have
Yeah.
it's all very, very intuitive and it's meant to be playful. And I feel like we are in very, very dark times, and to be able to have a crack in the universe where you can still see whimsy and color, to me, is extremely important. And all the work that I create sort of falls into that category. And when someone walks into my studio and just smiles, I know that for at least a moment, there's some relief from whatever it is that we're all troubled with these days. So, so to be recognized with a group of painters that I'm with is beyond my wildest dreams. To be selected, and I do see life from a very optimistic and whimsical point of view. So thank you very, very much. Just thank you very much.
I mentioned at the outset that that the whimsy or humor is reminiscent of Samantha Herring's whimsy of the and I gave an example of the box and how it related to the back of the table, which formed the horizon line. Well, here, I like how if you follow the horizon line from the left to the right, I like how it starts off and then the hind leg is overlapping it. And then if we dip down to the belly of the horse, the horizon line becomes the belly of the horse, and then it comes out to the forwardmost horse's leg. So it's sort of wavy, and that's another example of my laugh out loud response to the visual joke, or the visual whimsy, that's better, yeah, continue to learn as much as you can about painting and art in general, but I'd watch out for getting sucked up in anybody's any teacher's sensibility, because you're a natural, and just enjoy yourself, you know, as you're doing here. And what was the dimensions? 30 by?
This is 30 by 30.
30 by 30. That's overlapped here by pictures. At first, I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to take anything too large. Not that 30 inches is large. I do 20 foot by 10 foot high pieces sometimes, you know, so it's not large, but I knew the gallery was relatively small, but I couldn't avoid using your painting to elevate the quality of the show. So I'm getting to you, Anne, before you have a chance to encourage me to move on, you know. But I did ask Anne to do that to me because my wife has other things to do right now. And so I need that, you know. But I could go on and on about any of your work for a long time because I think it's that good. So Mary D. Ott, are you here? And can you unmute yourself if you are? Anne, is she here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Mary.
Hi.
I like the in this oil pastel on etching. I like the layers of this piece. Even the color blue, and I think of Cezanne as blue, for example, his color. I think of Vermeer as blue and yellow, but I think of Cezanne as blue. That blue encompasses violet and green and violet and yellow. But there's a sense of blueness that's really full in his work. And that's what I liked. One of the things that I liked about this sort of diptych, I don't know if you think of it as a diptych, two-paneled work. Do you?
No, I don't, because actually they were printed on the same piece of paper. So one was printed, the paper was folded, and then the etching was printed, and the color from the top went through to the bottom.
Oh,
You see, so that's how that was created. The one is a reflection of the other in a sense. And then I use the oil pastel separately on the top and the bottom.
And did you scrape or scratch into the oil pastel?
I just put it down on top of the surface of the paper.
That's another part of the process that you could use for oil pastel. Take a butter knife or a palette knife and the side of a palette knife, and you know how you cake up oil pastel as opposed to powder pastel. Oil pastel can cake up at a certain point and get a little bit greasy, and you can't control it. Whereas talking about surfaces, which I did a little bit previously, you know, another way to get another surface is to scrape some of the oil pastel off and then leave it thickly applied elsewhere. But I mentioned diptych. I see that it's on one sheet of paper, one panel, but I see it because of the division between the top and the bottom. I see it as two separate images. Obviously, they're reflective of one another. And I find it interesting that and effective, successful, that you chose to, you could flip this around and have the darker, heavier part of this two-part image on the bottom. But I like that you have the heavier part on the top. And I thought the Summer Reflections too worked well as a title for this, you know. Anything else? But I think of optical coloration. The best example of optical coloration would be historically, would be for me, would be Seurat, Georges Seurat, the French pointillist. You know, if he put a blue dot next to a yellow dot, optically, if you step back, it turns into green, but you get the vibrancy of each dot, you know, and your eye mixes them. And so I started off by referencing Cezanne because his overlappings and his range of seeing color within one color is exquisite. And I think one of the strengths of this painting is how the eye mixes the color rather than you mixing it all together on your palette, you know. And it's a very fluid, no pun intended for Summer Reflections, but it's a very fluid bit of calligraphy that moves across, especially for me, seeing it on the screen right now on the bottom part. You know, there's so many different rhythmical passages that all intertwine, you know. So that said, anything you would like to add, Mary?
Well, I'm very happy that I'm in the show and that I received an award. And I'd like to say some of the texture comes from this being on chiffon paper. So there's lots of bits of mulberry or whatever it is that you can see on the lower half of the artwork. And so that contributes to the painting.
Great. It looks great.
Thank you.
If we have time, if at the end, after we've looked at all 10 artists' works, if you want to have any kind of conversation, I'm not sure how that would work for you, Anne, or Julie. You know, I'm sorry to not be giving you more time and attention for your commentary, you know, but I was asked to talk about each one of the works.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you for submitting. So did you mention to me, Anne, that Edward Charney is not here?
Edward Charney is not here.
Okay, well, hi, Edward, if you ever see this, you know. Talking about going from here to there, yeah, obviously, when you have, I can't see, again, the bottom line of the caption, but it was 18 inches by something like 70 inches or so, but a 70-inch stretch expanse was not something I was looking for to include in this show, because I was trying to keep the dimensions to a minimum in order to include more paintings, but I do like this painting very much. It reminds me, I mean, it might be out west. I'm not sure where Ridge Road is. And I like that the painting is titled after what I assume is that diagonal road moving back to the horizon line. But it reminds me of a place that I went to for about 10 summers in Italy, Monte Castello di Vibbio, and some paintings that I did of stretches of landscape. You know, the challenge for a painting that's long and horizontal or long and vertical is to activate the various sections intensely all along the way or the path. And I think this painting does it. There's a lot of green, and he's not doing what Mary just did, coloring that green through optical coloration. I mean, there is some of that for sure, but he's really capturing the stretch of this expansive panorama, you know, don't need expansive there, that panorama. Oh, maybe I'll leave it to anybody in the audience to just unmute yourself and speak up about what you like or dislike, you know, about this painting. Is there anybody who would like to chime in? Because I'm feeling a little bit bad as having taught all my life, you know, just talking so much. Mary, you leaned forward a little bit. Do you have something that you would like to offer?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful painting. I like the yellow area in the center for some reason.
And why do you think it's wonderful?
It covers a pretty broad area. It shows the topography. That's fine.
Did you chime in partly because you empathized with the proportion or format of this long, thin horizontal?
Not really, but I've done a number of more traditional landscapes. And if you took part of this painting, it might look like one of them, but I never did anything that wide.
Sometimes just choosing an unconventional proportion takes it out of the common denominator. You know, art stores would go broke if they made as many long, thin canvases, stretched canvases, as they make 10 by 10 inches or 10 by 12 inches. And so that proportion appealed to my sensibility right off the bat. So Tessa is not here, you said.
That
right?
is correct. Tessa is unable to make it tonight.
Okay. Is this going to be online? So
Yes, it will.
Okay.
So this will be posted onto our YouTube channel in about 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'll make a couple of comments. I like the calligraphy of this. I like the reinventiveness, the reinventions. Like, what's the name? Charlene. Charlene, what I said about how you reinvented yourself as you moved from one area to another. I like how Tessa is reinventing herself from one mark and one pattern and one shape to and one texture to another. It's a kind of fire burst, you know, and that we see past a curtain-like form on the left, which is overlapping. It's like a theater piece, you know. The curtain opens and not quite altogether, and we see the excitement of how this abstraction sets up. And here's a case where I mentioned in a few cases previously how you can listen to a painting as much as look at a painting. And I listened to Samantha's, and I listened for the quietude. And here I'm listening to the crackles and the bursts and the cacophony, you know, of the whole thing. So it feels like a really generous, enthusiastic painting, full of life and full of surprise, you know. And so that's why I picked it. And Grace, can you, I know that you're here, can you say something so we picture you? Yeah. Is this the last one, Anne?
Yes, this is the last picture, Barry. And then
Okay.
we can open it up for questions.
Okay. And just so you know, I did not order this at all. You know, the Maryland Federation of the Arts, I don't know how arbitrary it was, but I just want to make the point that this is last but not least, okay? I like the painting very much. And what did you say your husband's name is? Matt?
Yes.
Yeah. So I like his face, you know. Of course, you do too. That's partly why you married him, but it's painted so well, you know. And it's interesting. It's almost painted regally, you know. I like the way it projects out of the darkness of the dark blue couch and his black t-shirt. And I like, and it's starkly posed in front of that white wall, you know. And while he's centralized, which could create a static quality, he's not centralized in the sense that from the vertical dark behind him, his shoulder, from the vertical dark where his head overlaps the white wall, he's not centralized within that. I like the negative shape to the right of his head is narrow and it's expansive, it's compressed on the right, and it's expansive on the left. And I also like very much, Grace, how, I don't know if it appears on your screens, your respective screens at home, like the darks are black, but I remember on my iPad spreading the image to get inside of like the dark t-shirt that he's wearing. And I love the fact that you bothered to find some folds in that, you know, and variations of light within the darkness, you know. I also like the details on the face of his T-shirt. You know, there are large, expansive areas that are simplified, and yet you have a fair amount of specificity in his T-shirt printed on it, as well as the blue, I guess that's a pillow above the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
That the dog's name is Tilly.
Yes.
Yeah. And Tilly is safe and sound right now.
Yeah.
'Cause
I'm
you-
hoping she doesn't bark while we're talking.
Yeah, okay. Because he barks when he knows people are talking about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for saying yeah. But yeah, I like also, there's a tradition of Titian or Tintoretto painting odalisques, you know, stretched out on couches. And there's this big macho guy stretched out, posing for you on this couch, you know? And so, and I love his hair, you know, talking about specificity, you know, you have very simple edges in a lot of places, but the hair you allowed yourself to, or, you know, you're just observing what was in front of you, but you allowed yourself to catch the natural flow of that. And there's something, maybe I should have said more about affection, you know, affection. An artist needs to have affection for her or his subject matter. And you have that for the dog, your partner, and for painting, you know, and for the details that either you asked Matt to put on for this painting, or the photograph for the painting, or you just like it. But I think it's a solid, well-built painting, you know. So anything
Oh, I'm here. My computer just needs to be plugged in while we're talking.
and anything that you could share with us as the final comment before we have a little conversation?
All right, we're plugged in. So just so I titled it specifically Matt and Tilly in 2020 to refer to the pandemic and everyone staying at home, because everyone, you know, couldn't go to the barber, so his hair is all over the place. And
was that an intentional thought?
Yes.
Associated with the pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
And this, like how people kind of resorted to the couch being the safe place to be. You couldn't really go anywhere else. And my painting style changed a little bit also. So I ended up painting a bit more tightly, more rendered. I'm painting a little bit more openly now and painterly, but just getting involved with all those details was very soothing at the time. So this painting is kind of a direct reflection of my experience in the moment.
That is one of the reasons that I did not associate this painting with Grace Doyle painting, because I don't remember you painting as kind of quote realistically, you know. But it's a good painting. And to the degree that you shifted like from the blue of the pillow to the blue of the blue jeans, the denim pant. It's not just lighter or darker, but it's a different shade of blue, a different color blue. And I like seeing those kinds of adjustments, really, you know. So, okay, it's late. I went over time a little bit. But does anybody have any comments or questions, you know, regarding anything I did not cover?
I also want to mention how cool it is that you, Barry, selected such a wide range of artists too. There's very representational artists, but also really abstract artists. And there's clearly a lot of talent in each side.
Yeah. I'll say a group thank you for the talent commentary, comment on your part. And there, if you have a chance to see the show, or can attend the closing, I will put in a pitch for that, because aside from the 10 award winners, there's a lot of really terrific paintings that just didn't make it from this juror. But if there was another juror, it might have been 10 very different images selected. And in fact, Anne, if you want, do you want to show when I started reading the text, and I said something about that I forget what I said, something about that there was a painting of a mutilated deer and with a serene cat.
Margaret Dowell's Angel Confronts Disrespect, Searches for Kindness.
Yeah, I thought this was a terrific painting as well. You know, it's not an easy painting for the guts of the dead animal, but I thought it's interesting take on a still life, you know, literally still life, and it took a chance, you know, in terms of subject matter. And this was one of the remaining images that was up for an award for me. And just to the right of this image, that reclining figure, and also, yeah, this one, and others of, I think it was a female artist, I don't remember. But what's the name of this artist, Anne?
This is Deborah Kahn's Quilt Stories 2.
And she had a couple of good paintings. I might have given that one an award. And as I see these, I think to myself, all of these were at a final cut, you know. And what was the other one? The zebra woman?
Yes, so this is Quirky.
Yeah.
And this is called Escuchala la Ciudad Respirando, which means hear the city breathing.
And I read in my curatorial essay comment, I referenced this and the deer and what other one? Oh, the bathtub I referenced.
This is Michael Frichette's bathtub.
And
there is really just some absolutely incredible work in this show. And, you know, we have to thank Barry Nemett for really selecting such an excellent show.
But of course, I had a lot to work with, obviously. Anybody else? And yeah, all of these on the screen right now were terrific images, are terrific images. And a very personal visual language, that a lot of people are exploring, investigating. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'll let you go.
I have a comment,
Uh,
but I'm the one that did the dead deer picture.
oh,
Can you
great.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Uh-huh. And meanwhile, I'll just say, well, what I did say was that I thought it was a bold still life. It was right up there until the very end for an award. But I certainly think that it adds to the exhibition as a whole. So thank you for submitting this work, Can you read it?
It is not up yet. I will
Anybody?
take this moment just really quickly to thank, to reiterate what Barry just said and thank all of the artists for sharing your work with us and for supporting MFA through sharing your work with us. Obviously, without you, we can't do what we do. So we really appreciate your participation. Margaret did just drop a note in the chat, and she just said she wanted to say that she has juried lots of regional and national shows, and she appreciated Barry, your comments and honesty and teacher expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Before we sign off, though, I did want to invite everyone to the Circle Gallery for our closing reception, which is November 27th from 4 to 6. We will be in person, and we're really hoping to see all of you there.
And when is Thanksgiving, Anne?
Thanksgiving is actually November 25th. So this is the Saturday following Thanksgiving. So hopefully you'll be full of a Thanksgiving meal and just want to come out and enjoy the city of Annapolis for an evening.
I'll do my very best to attend the closing, but I have to let you know that we're having quite a few friends and family, mostly family, at our house. We're hosting. So, and they're going to be sleeping over, a lot of them.
Well, this is an open reception, so please feel free to not only bring yourself, but bring a couple of guests, walk through the gallery, chat up with the artist, have a glass of wine, and then go and enjoy a dinner in the city of Annapolis. So thank you all.
And before we sign off, I'll just mention that Anne was recruited to oversee this whole event today, at the last minute. You did great, and you made my life easy. So thank you very much, Anne.
Well, thank you, Barry. We could not have done this without you.
Okay.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great evening.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Barry and MFA.
Thank you so very much.